Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to a spectacular match of the AI Cup in 2023 that you can follow now on chess.com. The AI Cup is a beautiful and spectacular tournament that's part of the Champion Chess Tour in 2023 that's going on now through the whole year, and we're now in the quarterfinal stage, and in the quarterfinals we have already the most spectacular, the clash of the titans, the game that everyone wants to see. We have here the amazing match between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. So a couple of days ago, Magnus won the super final of the Speed Chess Championship in 2023. That was also on chess.com. We have to say it was a roller coaster, this super final. I think even Magnus Carlsen got a little bit lucky in the end. Hikaru Nakamura could have also won this super event very easily, but of course Magnus wanted to, now probably Hikaru wanted to make something in this particular match, wanted to get maybe or even his revenge against Magnus Carlsen. Let's see now what happened. We're now in the game 3, which was in my opinion the most spectacular game from this super match. They had to play 4 games in the first game. Magnus Carlsen won the game with the white pieces. The second game ended with a draw. Now in the game 3, really crazy things happened. Let's see now the beautiful game between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. So with the white pieces, Magnus opened with the move knight to f3. We have knight to f6 by Hikaru, c4 English opening, and now after a couple more moves the game transposes into the King's Indian defense, and Hikaru is the monster in the King's Indian. I've analyzed so many beautiful games played by Hikaru in the King's Indian. When I started to study the King's Indian defense, I think the most games that I've analyzed in the King's Indian were by Garry Kasparov and Hikaru Nakamura. These are, I think, the most brilliant players in this particular opening. So here after kingside Carlsen, here normal development by Magnus, we have knight to a6, which is now the so-called Kazakh variation. This move knight to a6 is, in my opinion, really one of the most beautiful approaches that you can play in the King's Indian structure, because it allows you to have a certain flexibility to even to hit the center with the move c5 or with the move e5. Basically, you are waiting here your opponent, what is going to your opponent here to do. Here Magnus simply calculates now e5 immediately here by Hikaru Nakamura. Magnus goes into calm line with bishop to e3, waits again. Black, what is black going to do after move knight to g4, because black doesn't want to tolerate here this annoying bishop on this diagonal. Magnus plays now the move bishop to g5, and rather than weaken the structure with the move f6 here, Hikaru goes into a very popular line with the move queen to e8. Keeps of course this pressure around the square d4, keeps of course also the tension around the square e5, has now great protection of the square. And again, Magnus, rather than maybe advance the pawn to d5, then of course there are some lines with knight to c5 in which we can cement the knight further. This is also a very popular line here to proceed. That's why Magnus Carlsen, I think, played here a line that the King's Indian defense player, I guarantee you, doesn't like to play. Because if you play here knight to e5, this wasn't played in the game, then knight to d4 again leads into structures that I think a King's Indian defense doesn't want to play. A King's Indian defense player doesn't want to play, because what he's trying to do is launch a flank attack with f5, f4, g5, g4. So he's trying to storm you with the pawn majority here on the king side. He's trying to do something here. He's trying to get some kind of an activity. Now, when you have traded off the pawns here, like Magnus did, and here Hikaru took now with the pawn, it's much harder to push now the pawn on f5, because the center is open. There are some weaknesses here. If you play f5, then you can get attacked also on light square, so it's a different story. Still, I will say that your main plan is staying. You will probably try to get the move f5, but it's a different story. It's riskier now to play the move f5 than when the pawn structure in the center is blocked after the advanced pawn on d5. So now, as I said, tricky idea here by Magnus Carlsen. Magnus goes with queen to c1, h6, bishop to d2, king to h7, and now comes already I think a critical moment of this game. Here Magnus pulled off an interesting line, c5, and here comes maybe even the first inaccuracy here by Hikaru Nakamura. He played now the passive move c6. A better way to go, believe me or not, is to play the move knight to c5, but this line leads into such a spectacular continuation. But I think a King's Indian defense player has to play sharp, so that's why knight to c5 look leads into this line, knight to c6, knight to d5, hitting the pawn here on c7. Now you play c6, attack the knight. You even allow the fork here, but now after queen to e7 and knight takes a8, now you have this one, knight to e4. Okay, you sack the rook, but look at this. Black is attacking now white's position with both of the knights. Bishop on g7, very powerful. Bishop on c8, although didn't play so far, has a great activity on this side of the board. Rook can be included into the game, and the most important thing now, we are going to play the move f5, and that's the move that you wanted to get in the King's Indian. Okay, this knight will eventually be taken because the knight cannot escape, but so far we want to play f5, f4, g5, g4, and with 4, 5, even 6 pieces attacking now here on this side of the board, I think black could have really, really great chances maybe to make a dynamic position on this side of the board. But unfortunately here Hikaru played, as I said, the slightly passive move c6. Magnus takes out now the knight, bishop takes a6, b takes a6, leads now into very, very messed up pawn structure here on the queen side. This is not what you wanted to get, and now there is of course a huge weakness in black camp. Now it's of course the weak d6 square. We have here h3, knight to f6. Look at this. What we're trying to do is reroute maybe the knight here to d6, knight to d2, knight to c4, knight to d6. That's the route. We have rook to d1, queen to e7, and now bishop to e3. Here Magnus liberates the square d2 for the knight, and as I said, is continuing with the normal plan. Knight to e8 by Hikaru, queen to c2, placing the queen on an interesting diagonal because, as we said, black is trying to move f5. Magnus took now e takes f5, g takes f5, but the queen on c2 is not allowing you here to make further progress with a potential move f4. You want to play, of course, f4, attack the bishop, and then followed with somehow maybe even the move e4. That's the line that you wanted to get. f4, maybe bishop to f5, e4, and then you have a much better position. That's why queen to c2, beautiful move here by Magnus Carlsen. Rook to e1, queen to f7, rook from a to d1, rook to g8 here by Hikaru. But because of this structural weaknesses and because of the weaknesses that Magnus Carlsen already provoked, here Magnus had already a beautiful continuation, rook to d8. Magnus didn't play it. This would be the best way here to proceed, because even if you try something like e4 here, look at this, what happens. You can even play knight takes e4. Black wants to push f4 or e4, but look at this. e4 is even not a possibility. You get this one. You can play bishop to f5. You get this one. Queen to h4. Now you play maybe rook takes d8, knight to g5. Very dangerous here to handle. So many dangerous possibilities, but I think only white can attack here. So that's why this would be very interesting line for Magnus Carlsen. But he played now maybe slightly inaccurate move, knight to e2, but this move is still, I think, very progressive. Nothing wrong with this move here. White is still much better, but still with knight to g3 again, attack further the structure f5 e5. In the game, bishop to e6 played by Hikaru, knight to g3. We have here king to h8, but what should you do here? Even if you step back somehow, even if you try, as we said, to push somehow e4, then eventually we'll get the knight on d4. We have always possibilities to get the knight somehow into the game. So again, this is not working. So Hikaru played now king to h8, tried now to get finally out of this mess of the queen here. So the queen was always very dangerous on this diagonal. But now Magnus had again great two choices. He played knight to h4, which is perfectly fine, or queen to c3 would be also very interesting line. For instance, you try something like e4, then we get the knight on e5. You're trying maybe something like, I don't know, queen to c7, then we play bishop to f4, and then look at this, knight to g6 is going to happen. Very messed up here position again for black. So this is not working. So after king to h8, look at this, many weaknesses in black's camp. We have knight to h4 by Magnus, and what should you do? If you play here something like f4, the problem is now you get, of course, here the move knight to g6. If you play here e4, then the problem is now you get queen to e2. Even if you push somehow maybe the pawn on f4, then we can even play this one, bishop to f4, queen to f4, knight to g6. Dangerous attacking chances here for white. So as I said, here after knight to h4, here Hikaru played the move rook to f8, tried of course somehow to include more pieces into the attack, but also to protect the weak pawn on f5. Magnus continues now with the good plan, bishop to d2, with the idea to play bishop to c3 to also attack now this diagonal against black's king. And now Hikaru plays f4, but this is not working because look at this, knight to g6 is going to happen. This was of course Magnus Carlsen's continuation, the fork. Magnus played now beautiful knight to h5, putting more pressure against the bishop on g7. Hikaru retreats. Magnus picks up now the rook on f8, and now after king to f8, g4. This is a devastating position. The knight is very powerful here. In the game, f takes g3 was played. Now first, of course, bishop to h6, hitting the king, king to g6, king to g8, and now after knight to g3. This whole position for black is falling apart. Look at this. The rooks are very active. This rook never played in the game. Imagine this position if Hikaru would have maybe sacrificed the rook in the beginning and then went maybe into this wild line that we have seen by playing this rook sacrifice, but having a beautiful attacking formation. Now it's a different story. Here bishop to a2, but nothing is working. Magnus is getting into the game. Magnus simply improves now the position of the pieces, plays also queen to h4, threatens of course some discoveries here by removing the bishop. That's why king to g8, knight to e4, beautiful centralizing move, queen to f5, and now again another brilliant move by Magnus, rook to d3 with the preparation to play the rook move, rook to g3. The king is naked. This is a messed up here position. We have knight to g7, knight to f6 here by Magnus Carlsen, beautiful move, because after king to f7 we have knight to d5. Here Magnus sacrifices the exchange just in order to get the queen here on e7, and from this point on it's obviously game over here. In the game, king to g6 was played. You can even deliver checkmate immediately by playing the move queen to g5. If you play here, then knight to f6 is winning the game. If you play king to f7, then again we have a forced checkmate sequence with bishop to g5 followed with queen to h6. This is not working. So after move king to g5, king to g6 here, queen to d6 was played by Magnus. Maybe not the most precise move, of course, when it comes to top engines, but who cares? This is a winning position in any lines. After move king to f7 here, Magnus played now the move queen to d7, and in this particular position Hikaru Nakamura resigned. For instance, you step back and then you get this one discovered attack here, check, and you lose the queen, so the game would be over here for black. So Magnus is true. Magnus won now the beautiful game, the beautiful match against Hikaru Nakamura. Now twice in the last couple of days he beat Hikaru Nakamura. This wasn't such a close match like the one that we have seen before in this blitz and bullet sections on the Speed Chess Championship in 2023. But Hikaru played a risky line, we have to say it, in with his kings in the defense. Magnus outplayed it totally with this exchange variation d takes e5. As I said, I guarantee you, if you're bothered maybe by the kings in and d takes e5 is a line in many lines that black doesn't want to play. Black wants to play this classical orthodox systems where he's of course storming with f5, f4. I think Magnus outplayed a little bit here Hikaru Nakamura, and is now the third winner of this quarterfinals of the AI Cup in 2023. Okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the kings in the defense for sure. If you want to see more games played by Magnus Carlsen, you can also check out our commented chess games here on my YouTube chat channel. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say? Chess is the best, of course.